Hello and welcome back once again to Rage Gaming and more Dragons Dogma 2, the Things You Didn't Know series. We have more things from the community at large, and as usual, some from the comments of the series, so let's just get straight into it. First up, one from a favourite creator of mine, Solovsky, who posts great images and videos of the finer details of games. They covered a lot of Elden Ring and Souls in general, but with Dragons Dogma 2, they started to spread into the Dogma content as well. I really recommend their Twitter, it's always really interesting stuff, but with that in mind, check this out. As I shared in a video a while back, harpies can come in multiple forms. There's the standard version, Gore, Venin, and even Succubus, which all work differently. Gore are those older, owl-like enemies, tankier, probably the most annoying in general. Venin are faster and poison-based, while Succubus, they're the ones that freeze you and laugh at you while they do it, also quite pesky. The thing I shared about this before is how their usual smooth or rather old faces, if we're talking Gore, can change. Some of them in the group can actually have these horrifying faces, where the gums are extending out past the lips, and the teeth are completely exposed. It's quite gross. Not to mention the discoloring of the face itself. They turn from human-like faces to complete monsters, basically. As it turns out, thanks to this discovery by Solovsky, it isn't that these are a rare special type that you'll find in a harpy pack now and then, but in fact, a transformation that seemingly any of them can go through. After the fight ends, it looks like you can watch them for a while to the point where they'll go through a somewhat uncomfortable transformation. They'll stomp and struggle, seemingly in pain and a lot of effort, to restore their human-like face. The end of the animation looks quite funny. She suddenly stands still and upright and changes. Really reminds me of the Sphinx in that moment, actually. Is the Sphinx just a giant special harpy model? Or more horrifying, imagine if the Sphinx had a similar face change mid-fight? In any case, this shows that this weird transformation is at will, and perhaps mid-fight after the trap has been sprung. Maybe they lured someone in with their human features, the truth's revealed, the harpy exposes its horrible face to actually eat its victim. In any case, really cool details, very subtle stuff, and again, please check out Solovsky's Twitter for more of this. Next up, a couple things to do with those lifts, the ones around Batal, and there's also a great one down on the volcanic island. They're wonderful in concept and a nightmare in reality, when the griffin smashes into you, breaking the whole thing, or harpies just harass you while you don't have any range attacks, the pawns are being useless. Being able to transport yourself across an area above it without fighting is a great concept if it worked like that. We just attack too much on these things. Fortunately, there's a couple tricks to make these lifts way better. Firstly, we have a tip from commenter MJB. MJB had a quick tip that's very good, and I just never realized for some reason. You can speed up the lift significantly if you choose to be the one to crank the lift to move it. You can also use the left stick if you're using a controller to make a kind of circle motion, much like the cranking motion itself. This will power the lift forward with more momentum. It's like your character's putting their back into it. For whatever reason, I just never realized that's the motion you needed to make it, well, noticeably faster. So it's a lot better. If you're playing on PC without a controller, I'm not sure what the motion or how you'll do it will be. Maybe you make the circle with your mouse, but I'm sure there's a way. But yeah, it's a great way to get through these lift sections with some haste, but there's one that's even safer, even if it is slower. This one comes from commenter Itsame Filai. I hope I said that name right, but I feel like I didn't. Anyway, their great tip is that you can actually give yourself and the pawns complete enemy immunity while you're on these lifts. You can't be targeted, so no enemy will even be drawn to you, let alone attack you. That means you can easily pass these lift sections safely, to the point where you could go fully AFK for a while and come back to the end of the ride where you were completely fine. And how it works is very simple. You jump on the lift, crank yourself, then press the button to tell a pawn to replace you. Now, while that pawn is cranking and you're moving, you speak to a different pawn to put yourself in a conversation. For whatever reason, while you're in this conversation, you will not be attacked by monsters. Even monsters that go right by you, hanging in the air or whatever, they won't attack. It's like you simply don't exist to them. You can stay in this conversation forever, easily, by just not progressing it or exiting it, so it's very straightforward. This suggests that while in a conversation in general, maybe you just can't be targeted. Pretty crazy. It's only really useful if you're on a lift because you're talking and moving at the same time. However, just be aware that you can't start a conversation if you're already in combat, so make sure you set this up on the elevator before, say, the first ambush, basically right away, and you'll have no problem. Overall, great tip. Now here's just a final funny one with these lifts. There's that old Sphinx riddle where you have to transport the urn all the way to town without letting it break, which is pretty difficult. The lifts should be a easy, helpful part of this, but for some reason it doesn't seem to work, as shown in this Reddit post by user Safton Shag. The urn just doesn't go with the lift once you put it down. Kind of just hangs in the air, being left behind. And what's also pretty interesting is the fact that it becomes a physical object that's holding its position. That means Saftan here can stand on it while the lift moves on, and then stand on a floating urn, no problem. Just a fun bug and all, but imagine trying to use these lifts to avoid combat for that quest. You put it down, you're trying to fight, and this happens. Funny either way, but yeah, weird. Next up, I want to highlight something fantastic from Reddit user Dragons Dogma Enjoyer. They took it upon themselves to create this hyper-detailed map for specifically the Unmoored world. It's all the important locations, items, and fights you can find, so you know where to specifically explore and head generally, rather than blindly wandering around. The post was updated after lots of help from different posters in the thread too. This is the final version you can look at. As you can see, we got special enemy locations, unique items referred to as rares, and stuff that you can only find here. Extra details like the areas you'll find Dullahans and fairy stones. It's certainly not a perfect map, but it is really nice to see, and it does cover most of the important things either way. I wasn't sure how to best show this, so I'm just going to direct you to the Reddit post called I've created a map of the Unmoored world. There's lots of good conversation in the thread in general. Props and thanks to Dragons Dogma Enjoyer for putting that together. Moving on, here's just a couple neat tricks for early playthroughs. Firstly, you can sneak through the border at the checkpoint town really early, say rather than doing the main story or walking the dangerous routes down the west or east sides. All you need to do is come when there's a royal cart going by, which is the kind you can't hire. These are meant for special royal or high level characters, a special escort between Vernworth and Back Batal that's just kind of going always. If you're passing by when it's near the town or the gate, it can be really beneficial. We first see one in the cinematic with phases passing through the gate, and as it turns out, you can just walk into them and stand there, and the cart will drag you along. If you're standing within there at the time, you won't be checked, even though the pawns are all standing outside in this case. I guess they're just assuming the right person must be in the cart, since there's guards, and you'd think they wouldn't let anyone on, but naturally, it's this video game, so you can do whatever you want, and NPCs will just stand there. The guy driving the cart does say, hey, get out my cart, you're not supposed to be in there, but doesn't stop you and no one does. So you can safely pass through the gate by using this without using the longer side routes early in a playthrough. Just be sure to stay in the cart until nicely away from the gate once you're through, because the guards will attack you if you exit too soon. Lastly, the other tip for an early playthrough thing is how to get the Mystic Spearhand master teaching and a pretty endgame weapon very early. If you remember, there's that lesser dragon attack on Melv after you're told to go check on Melv again at some point. The lesser dragon attacks, you deal enough damage, it runs away. That's normal, and that leads to, say, the Mystic Spearhand vocation unlock because of it. However, did you know you can kill the lesser dragon right there and now? This is thanks to a comment from Gaijin Hunter, a fellow creator and friend of the channel. Gaijin was kind enough to drop this useful tip in the comments of one of the videos of the series. I'm finally covering it. I mean, being able to get this master teaching and a really good duospear this early is a big deal. But in short, all you need to do is deal a bit of damage to the dragon, but not too much. If you do too much, the dragon does fly off and run away. So weaken it a bit first, say the first health bar, then run into the town. Up the main tower, you've got a ballista at the top, which you can lower using a crank on the side. Then you can get onto it and start to try to turn it, and the pawns will help you turn it. While you're turning, you'll slowly pull back the first shot. Send that off and hit the dragon, and that'll deal really good damage, so much so that it will now try to run away. After the first shot is fired, already begin preparing the second, so that it's ready to shoot the dragon out of the air as it's about to fly off like so. This would kill the dragon for me, leaving its body fully lootable. With that, you can go pick up the Dead Ringer, a weapon you'd get much later from the normal kill, or maybe buy from the Volcanic Island merchant. So it's actually the best Mystic Spearhand duo spear that you can get before, say, Unmoored world. Pretty insane to get right now. Not to mention the kill means Sigurd will also teach you the master teaching right there on the spot. So if you want to get OP as fast as possible as a Mystic Spearhand, this is definitely how. So great tip in general, Gaijin. Very appreciated. But there you have it. Another episode of Things You Didn't Know in Dragons Dogma 2. As usual, please let us know if you have anything you'd like to add to today's topics or anything new to add in a future video. For now, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.